Welcome back to the Next Level Show. We are back at it with some more fitness content and all just a bunch of randomness. Thank you for everyone that subscribes and checks and tunes in every episode. We've dropped a lot, so I know it's it's hard to keep up with. But yeah, if you don't want to miss one, make sure you go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you're watching this through video, and or if you're listening through any podcast platform of your choice. We are available on Apple, iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, you name it. I don't even know all the other ones out there, but typically we're out there. So just Google our info and we should pop up. Other reminders, if you want to fast forward to certain parts of the episode, Mike does a fantastic job with the timestamps. You can literally just click exactly where you would like, the topic that you would like to listen to that you care about in case you're on a crunch for time, or just don't care about what we have to say on certain points. Totally fair.
But I see what you did there.
But you would literally benefit so much more if you listen to the entire episode. Just make sure you give the video a thumbs up at any point that you find is valuable, and feel free to share. We always appreciate screenshots, shares, tag us so we can personally just say thanks, for tuning in. Mike, you had something to tell me before we got started?
Yes. So I told you guys recently that I was, Jen and I watched part of It. And that we had to turn it off at a certain point. It was kind of just like a mutual, I'd rather be watching something else. I may have pressured her a little bit, just a tiny bit. We started it back up, right back where we left off. So it was literally right in the middle of a scary scene. So we just fucking jumped right back into it. But we got through it. And I think a couple of things helped here, which this is kind of new ground for me, because by the end of it, I wasn't even scared anymore. Number two, not scary at all, in my opinion, at least. Number one was far more, intense, in my opinion. But one thing that helped a lot, and I actually looked into this, and this is a real thing, and it's actually a very big part of the movie. Oliver was sleeping, so we had to turn the volume down. So the jump scares and the scary scenes and all that kind of stuff, it wasn't accompanied by the high-pitched noises or the screams or anything. So we were getting almost half the experience, I guess. But we were able to get through it. And it really wasn't as bad. I think the beginning of It is a little bit scarier for me than the rest of the movie wound up being. And especially by the end, I think one thing that really made it more silly in a weird way was at the end of 2, when he's no longer a clown and he's kind of like this big thing. I don't even know what the fuck that was. That like a fucking lobster or something? I was like, what the fuck is this? That's not even scary anymore. Get the raid, I don't know.
I think you kind of cheated yourself a little bit, but you know what? I respect the fact that you went through it and watched it, because if you would have watched it with the surround sound, volume up, I think it would have been a more thrilling experience. But I will say this, for those that don't know, It is creepy, but it's not it has a couple of jump scenes, but it's not like a scary movie. It's very entertaining actually, and it has a very good it has a good plot. It's good to follow. The cast was amazing. I think they did an amazing job picking the kids. And then you watched the second one, you said? Yeah, the second one, I think they did such a good job at tying in the adults with the kids. And I like that they kind of flip-flop back and forth a little bit. It was one of my favorite horror movies. I actually just rewatched the first Conjuring movie, and then I realized that I missed one. I missed the third Annabelle. I never watched that one. I thought I did, but apparently I'm missing that one. So I may watch that one soon. For those that don't know, I'm actually pretty down with scary movies. I like the Conjuring universe because I feel like the storyline is good. This is the problem with scary movies, is that most of them have shit plots, and they just don't they don't have a point. It's just most of them are just scary, or try to anyways. If they don't give it away in the trailer, then it ends and you're just kind of that was silly. But the other movies, for example, it kind of leaves it open. It's a good story. Which one? The Conjuring series, each one I feel has ended in a pretty good way, where it leaves it open to continue. And I like it because each movie has what they call it, Easter eggs for for when they leave like little things, little clues, or just things. If you watch the other ones, you would know. You're like, you can appreciate it when you rewatch it. So definitely like them. I mean, The Conjuring. You haven't seen the Conjuring series, have you?
No,
That one's intense.
I told you
That
that
one,
that one. I can't even watch the little 10-second snippet on Netflix.
I
It
literally
just
went.
no.
I went through it, man, and I went through it, and there was a part that I forgot about, and it got me again. I'm like, damn it! But
Yeah,
it was a lot of fun for sure, nonetheless.
yeah. Well, to clarify, we didn't have it completely muted. It was a volume down to like minus, you know, a sub 10 category, so you could still hear it. It just wasn't as loud. Normally, I like when I'm watching a movie or a show. In perfect scenario, the volume's way the fuck up. Because that's just a better viewing experience in my opinion. But we have a big room and a big TV, and I want to be able to hear what's going on. But you know, it also helped having Oliver on me, because I had to be, calm. I couldn't jump or freak out or anything like that. Otherwise, I
could
would have
just
woken up the
imagine you
baby.
just jump, and then the kid, like your baby's like just staring at you, like what the hell, starts crying.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
You could have literally used it as an excuse too to like look away from the TV and like look at your kid and
Hmm.
just stare at him and like be like, oh, I'm just checking on him, like
That's
while
that's
the
what
scary movie.
that's what Jen does.
Oh man, dude, we've been getting a lot of rain in Florida. It's definitely summertime. It's my least favorite season of the state. We don't really have seasons. They don't look like it changes much, but people don't know this. It does change in the summer. It's different. It's just a completely different climate. It feels like you're walking into an oven when you step outside for even a couple minutes. It just feels ridiculously hot. Now, other states, mind you, I know like Nevada, Arizona, California, it gets really hot as well. But this is a different thing, man. There's something about the humidity that just makes it, even though they are temperature wise, they are hotter, our humidity like amplifies all that by a lot. And you just feel gross. You walk outside and you just feel disgusting every time. So it's like I shower now about 3 times a day just because I just can't stand being sticky and gross. And I've talked about on the show, I'm really big into hygiene, man. Like I just never know. I always tell the fellas, you got to be ready, man. You just never know when something may present itself. You got to be always available and ready to go, and that's just my personal tip of the day is just make sure you're clean, fellas. Carry your baby wipes. This is baby wipe season. Even though year round you should be carrying baby wipes. Baby wipes is in full stock mode right now because you just never know, man. It's too hot outside. Don't be playing that. Get your deodorants, get all that going, man. It's here. It's not even winter's coming. It's fucking summer's here, and it's killing me. So anywho.
I tend to disagree. We actually do have some changes that happen. In the early part of the year, January to April is dry season for us.
Mhm.
So instead of the leaves changing, it's the grass. The grass turns brown. If you're driving around, you have no idea. Say you just woke up from a coma and you're driving around and you have no idea what time of year it is, but all the grass is brown. It's probably between January and April. If it's all green and overgrown, you're looking at like July.
This is true.
I mean, that's
Yeah, right now my grass looks great. Well, the lack of grass. I have a patch that's still there. Now, I was telling Micah this on air, and hopefully, like YouTube doesn't censor this because we're trying to be very careful. Like, well, me personally is I know now watching from other podcasters, they sometimes will change the word that they're trying to say because it does, it will interfere. But this would be fine. This is not really like political or anything like that, but it's just a joke that I've always had since I was a kid. And this came from pure innocence. But I just carried it on through my adult years. So it's probably not justifiable, but who cares? So growing up, I always like we lived in different places. And for some reason, I've never had the most amazing grass. And this is completely off topic. We've never had the most amazing grass. And when I'm talking about like the nice, full green, perfect edging. I mean, I never lived in a dump either. Like, I mean, I've been very fortunate to live in nice areas. And, but for some reason, there's an actual science to taking care of grass. Like you have to have a certain level of understanding to make sure you're doing certain steps throughout the year to maintain your grasses health and make sure that the weeds don't overpower it and it just becomes like these bushy little trees that grow in the floor. So growing up, I always admired my neighbors' houses, and they were typically American people. Where I'm technically American as well, but these like I'm Hispanic. Someone will look at me, you can tell I'm from a Hispanic background. And I always thought to myself as a little kid, I'm like, why can't we have I always thought that this, because we were Spanish, we couldn't get, and this is me like 4 years old. I just didn't have an understanding as to why I would see people that had nicer grass than me. And I'm like, this is like white people grass. This is just how it is. This is how the world works. And it just so happens to be that I've never fully had that grass before. And I never understood to why until as I got older, I understood, okay, these people really take care of it. And you see them outside, like putting like fertilizer and like the little vitamins or whatever that the lawn, the soil needs so that the weeds don't take over and it keeps green, right? There's a whole process.
Yeah.
And I always just laugh because I'm like, I'm looking at the grass that they're putting out outside and I'm like, it looks like white people grass. Like, and I'm like, I'm excited. Like, this is how like, how naive I've been growing up. And me and my brother always grew up calling it white people grass. And it's just because we admired the niceness of the grass. It was always thick, coarse versus my hard, crunchy, weedy type grass that had patches of dirt everywhere. Yeah, man, that's what I always called it, the nice coarse grass. If people in Florida will know what I'm talking about. I actually learned though that this grass isn't ideal even. In upstate, in the other states, they have grass that's actually softer. And you can actually walk on it barefoot and lay on it and it's comfortable. And I do remember now going to like Central Park in New York and stuff like that. The grass is actually very comfortable and it doesn't itch. It's almost like golf field grass. It's very soft, right?
Yeah.
So, but it's very common for them to have it in their houses everywhere. It's very normal. I was dating a girl that was originally from up north from Ohio, and she would always make fun of the grass here. And she said it's crunchy grass, even though the coarse grass, it was hard. And I'm like, what do you mean crunchy grass? And it's like, yeah, like this grass is all crunchy. And I'm like, that's a really silly way to think about it. But then it's like, no, our grass over there is very soft. You can be barefoot and it's comfortable. But yeah, that's grass talk for you.
So for reference, I think the grass that you're talking about, the white people grass, is Saint Augustine grass, I think. And then the other type, usually in Florida, you'll see Bahia or Bahia. I've always called it Bahia. I think those are the two that you're referencing here. Most lawns have Bahia. And then if you're a little bit more
little thin, long strips.
Yeah, the little thin guys, it's usually like 3 or 4, sometimes 2 sprouts out of like a stem, if you will. And then the St. Augustine's almost like a top coat of grass. It's kind of like a carpet. It's also invasive. So if you have a neighbor that has this type of grass, it tends to creep across the top and it kills what's underneath and becomes your grass.
But it can be defeated by the weeds though. Like the weeds can still overpower them. And
weeds will beat anything.
Yeah, weeds will beat concrete, for crying out loud. Those fuckers sprout out of the floor too. It's like, what?
Yeah, they will. And they it was actually kind of funny because during our dry season, our lawn was brown, but our weeds were thriving. And I have no idea how that works because we weren't getting any rain. It was water twice a day as per the statutes of the city we live in, or twice a week, not twice a day. And it all seemed to go to the weeds. The grass was fucking brown and crunchy. It was miserable. It was like the sun was just baking our lawn. But the weeds loved it. I don't know. It has a lot to do. I think the northern to southern, like down here, the difference is it has a lot to do with the soil. Because we don't actually have soil. We just have dirt. It's just like it's compacted dirt at this point.
Swampy land.
Because Cape Coral was originally a swamp, and some fucking rich people decided to turn it into a subdivision and came in with a bunch of dirt and filled it in. So it's not soil like you have up in like West Virginia where you can plant anything and it'll grow. Down here, there's no nutrients. It's like it's not that far off from sand.
Yeah, basically. And that's the big difference why, we have crunchy grass versus you northern people have nice soft grass. No, dude, it's crazy. Like we talked about this in another episode. We can probably save the topic for like a Mindset Monday type episode, but like kind of it just makes me think of the book that we read, Man Up, a couple years ago. The analogy that I always love that he says is like, do you want to be for mental toughness in just life is do you want to be resilient? I mean, do you want to be delicate like an like a what was it, the
Tulip?
orchid?
Yeah.
It was an orchid. Yeah, like you want to be delicate like an orchid or fragile like an orchid, because you have to water a certain way, it has to get a certain amount of sun, so on and so forth, and not if the orchid dies. It can't be in any type of disrupted environment. But a weed in this case, you want to be resilient like a weed, and basically you can try to crush the weed, rip the weed out, burn the weed, but then eventually the weed would always come back. It even breaks through concrete, like it'll pop out. Like you'll see little leaves just come out of there, and people know what I'm talking about in their driveways and stuff like that. If you don't really watch it, these guys will start getting ahead of you, and they're just, it doesn't matter how much you try to like cover them up. I mean, they just keep coming back. How much time you spray them, you gotta keep on top of it. If not, they will come back. They don't stop. So it's a cool little mental mindset analogy for it. The example that he picked was, I thought was phenomenal. Stuck with me forever, actually. Anywho, we got some good stuff lined up today. I know we're missing. Somebody's probably already wondering, like, did we fire someone? No, we didn't.
Oh, no, we didn't.
Not yet. No. So our third co-host, Gabe, he's been very busy with his business, with his wife, and they're doing something for summer, for I think it's like a summer camp type thing. So it requires him to sometimes stay a little bit longer. So we're filling in for him. Obviously, the guys filled in for me as well just recently. This is the great thing about having a 3-person podcast, I feel.
Yeah, he's if I'm understanding it correctly, Gabe is building low income housing for children right now.
Yes, he's saving in Africa.
Yeah, exactly.
So he's doing the Lord's work. So now to the other segment of the show. Dun, dun, dun. We really need to get a soundboard on cue for the listeners that are like, I don't know, this is actually becoming a thing, which I think I admire from other shows, is that they have a little soundboard. It kind of makes the video dynamic. But anything you want, just like any recommendations, listeners, let us know in the comments or in the review comment section on the other platforms. We're always open for advice. But for the fitness topic, for the people that came for fitness, welcome. We're going to be giving you guys a couple muscle building tips and tricks that we have found are helpful for us, and as well as some clients that get to a point where this is where you can start playing with the little things you hear throughout your lifting career. People that like maybe put too much hype on it, and we literally teach this later. It's not the first thing I would go to with clients. Obviously, the most important thing we always say is being consistent, putting in effort, sticking to the basics, making sure you're recovering, sleeping, and eating just overall like a well-balanced diet that's going to adhere to your goal, whether there's muscle building, fat loss, maintenance, whatever the case may be. So you have to have those in line first before any of these things would even matter. And even to this degree, they're smaller things. They do make a difference, but the other things have to be in line first. If you do this and your diet's shit, your sleeping is very poor, you're barely getting to the gym as it is, the chances are is that you're not gonna really get any benefits from this. So I would like to make that as a disclaimer first.
Yeah, you actually have to be putting in the work for supplements to work. I mean, that should be common sense. I hope. That's why when you see companies that promote the main base of their business is supplements and is ran on supplements and meal replacements, it's a very good sign that they're shit. Just being honest. So then you can know, okay, let me not invest my money in this. Let me just do something else that's probably going to maybe tell me something that's not that sexy, but it's true and it holds value. And there's actually like scientific evidence to back it up. So you don't see any great athlete in the world or anyone that you admire that they got that way because they were taking just those products or all those meal replacements. Except for Michael Phelps and milk.
There you go. I mean, yep. Some people are vegan probably tuning in, so they're probably like, no, I don't like him. So the first thing for the muscle building tricks, this is not going to be the supplement part. This is going to actually become some of the basics. So the main things is people I really had to talk with a client about this too, because I can't stress it enough. And this is why we will go back on the podcast and tell you, the listener, because you may overlook this information too, because you're being consistent for a while, or you have shifted your focus on other things that you think are more important. But basic thing, making sure you're hydrated, making sure you're drinking enough water each and every single day is going to ensure that you maximize your potential in the gym as well as recovery, because water, obviously, we know is a major part in just overall health. But from a muscle building perspective, if you're dehydrated and if you're someone that has been super hydrated and has been consistent with that, and then you slack off on water, you'll notice a decrease in performance in the gym. You'll feel, typically what that looks like, you'll feel flatter, like your muscles don't feel as full. Your pumps will begin to suffer. And for people that don't know what pumps are, it's when the muscle gets very tight and filled up with blood and nutrients, and you just feel like you look bigger, or when you touch it, like the muscle just feels very hard on its own. Typically that feeling lasts a couple minutes, and then just kind of after the workout, it'll start to go back to normal. But if you're dehydrated, it'll be hard to really get the muscle to expand or pump that much nutrient into the body. That's one of the main tricks. I don't know if Mike, you have something to add on that one.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'll just kind of piggyback on it. I mean, that's well said, and I don't have anything else to add to water, but having a little bit of sugar before a workout is going to help accomplish the same thing in regards to the pump, or the feeling of how full the muscle is getting. Because when you're getting a muscle pump, it's blood, it's water, and it's glycogen, or sugar. What your body does to sugar is turns it into glycogen. So all of these three things kind of rush into the muscle and make it grow. And technically speaking, the bigger you can get it during the workout, the bigger it gets, air quotes, bigger, it'll get afterwards. Obviously, it's not that drastic of a change from one day to the next, but so that's like a pretty old school tip would be getting like 20, 30 grams, depending on your size and weight, would be a pretty good number to shoot for. Don't be like my client, Ryan, who I probably should have explained this a little bit better. And Ryan won't care that I'm mentioning this. I said about 20 to 30 grams of sugar before a workout, thinking logically he would go to like gummy worms or an apple or Skittles, like I used to do. He took 28 grams of straight up sugar, and threw it back. And he got to the gym and he was like, "Why'd you make me do that? That was awful. That was so gross." I was like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "I just had sugar." And I'm like, "I meant like in food, dude. Like, why?" So if that's what you want to do, you're more than welcome. More than welcome to do that. Your teeth are probably not going to like you too much, but preferably in the form of food, maybe fruit or a juice, something like that. That's a really solid and honestly easy way to get a little bit of benefit out of something that you're eating, and you're getting a little bit of energy for your workout too.
Some people, and I'm always careful when I give this piece of advice. And obviously, these are clients that I'm sure Ryan has covered his other bases before you progressed them to this. And this is the same thing that, even working together, Mike, years ago, this is something that I kind of let you do as well. And I kind of let you pick and choose, because we believe in I guess we're pretty adamant about flexible dieting, and in the right context. We're not talking about just eating, purposely trying to put junk food on all the time and just justifying it as flexible dieting. We mean, like, you have options, man. Like, if you really don't feel like having another cup of rice, because it's like a simple carb, if you want to have maybe some candy, you want to get a pack of gummy worms or something that's obviously not ideal for health, but if you're having all your other areas covered, you want to throw that in there before your workout. I used to do it too, man. I used to throw in like, and like I said, context matters. Everything else is accounted for: protein, fiber, making sure I'm getting vegetables, and all the other parts of my diet are actually in check. But if I wanted to treat myself to a cookie or to a donut, it was, some people will be mad at this, but it's like, I had a great workout, and it was just like a little bit of those extra sugary carbs that were yummy. And I went in there and just crushed my workout. I would usually have a nice big heavy lifting day with legs or whatever. And I never overdid it where I was eating like the whole packet. I would just eat like a couple, like literally a serving size. and I can control that. I know someone that may be listening to this and it may trigger you to do bad, like to continue down that path of just uh, eating these type of foods and you can't control it. Then I would probably, advise not to. A fruit's also obviously a great option as well. More natural, probably better for your health overall. But these are little tricks before your workout. Have some carbohydrates and like simple carbohydrates, and that would just with obviously with the proper hydration, proper rest, you're gonna go there and crush your workout. That's why they even sell powdered uh, uh, glucose. What is it called? The upper name for it. Basically,
G.
they just um,
Are you
damn.
talking about G Fuel?
No, it's well, it's like I know one company I used to use was Carbolin, this supplement. Basically, it was like fruit punch, and it was like kind of like drinking Gatorade. It had like carbohydrates in it. It's like dextrose. It had
Oh,
dextrose.
yeah. Okay.
And basically it was like 30, 50 grams of carbs. And this is when I was trying to put on size. But for someone that like is trying to recover, before you need something quick and you don't want to eat, have some type of carbohydrate. Obviously, if you're dieting, this may not be the best thing for you to do. But if you're someone that's like in maintenance, or you have a very big calorie budget and you want to throw in some, some of these little hacks or tricks, it can make your workout really fun and something to like look forward to. Like this is the thing, you always like kind of attach it to some type of ritual, right? Like, you're doing something in like kind of habit. When people take pre-workout, is before they work out. You're not taking a scoop of pre-workout when you finish your last set, unless you're a maniac. But it's like you're you're literally doing things in a way to enhance just play around with your workout. So I just think that is something cool to have fun with. If you're at a point now where you've been super consistent, you know what you're consuming, and your goal is maybe to enhance your performance in the gym and get better pumps and maybe aid in some muscle building. Why not?
Hell yes.
Hell yeah. So that kind of covers those main ones, right? Those are just some
Yeah.
basic stuff before we get into the supplements. So yeah, just proper hydration is key, and then simple carbohydrates in the form. It could be some type of sugary treat. Have fun with it. Obviously, don't go overboard. I'm not promoting to eat candy all the fucking time. Don't take it out of context, because I know some people will. They'll hear, oh yeah, the next level show is promoting fucking diabetes. No, like it's not what we're doing. So so just with a grain of salt, throw it in, spice it up your workout from time to time. I don't do this anymore though, to be honest. I've been just eating very basic. Obviously, if I want something sweet, I'll have it. But this is something when I was super consistent, like as far as with my diet was impeccable. Like my macros were dialed in and day out. I was training 6 days a week with a very intense routine. And dude, I was eating a decent amount of food just to maintain my activity level. This is when I did those extra things. Right now, since I'm my activity for the most part has dropped a little bit, even though I'm busy with work and I'm on my feet. I'm not lifting nearly as intensely, so I don't need to be adding these tips and tricks, because still have to earn my right to do so. Is the way I look at it. You gotta make sure that the basics, all your bases are covered in the fundamental stuff before you want to get fancy. This is no different than finances. You don't want to start investing in a bunch of different crazy stocks or all these different accounts if you still don't have a savings. If you still don't know how to budget, like you don't want to get crazy with your finances if you haven't covered the fundamentals. Once you have those laid out, that's when you start dabbling in other areas of the financial world to gain a little bit more. But those are not your rocks. You still got to stick to the basics: budget, balance, manage your savings, spendings, etc. So, yeah, I think that we can move on to the supplements. Do you think so, Mike?
Yeah.
Cool. First one, I'm going to let you kind of take it off on these because I know you have the notes available. Nitric oxide. I know some of this stuff is going to come to maybe you would not expect that we would talk about, but all you in preface, like we just talked about, the basics are important. The supplements are going to be a minor part, but these are some scientific proven supplements that actually help. They will add some value, some benefit. Like I said, if you're lacking on the other areas, they're not going to do much. So don't waste your money. But if you have these things and you want to play around and you have some extra money, try it. Nitric oxide is one of those things that is a component that helps a lot with your training. Mike?
Yeah, it's actually got quite a few uses. So nitric oxide is not nitrous oxide, which I used to call it that. Nitrous oxide is for cars, makes them go fast. Nitric oxide is a vasodilator, which is the scientific word for it makes your blood vessels expand. Kind
Kind
of
of
like
like Viagra.
Actually, yeah, I was going to bring Viagra up as a talking point, but now what we were talking about before with the muscle pump, the water, the blood, the sugar all rushing into your muscles. What a vasodilator helps with is it makes the highways in which that volume of fluid travels through larger, thereby delivering more nutrients, more blood, more water, more glycogen to the muscles that are doing the work. Now, this is not a big, gigantic fucking difference like if you were doing like blood flow restriction training or something like that. This definitely does make a difference, but it's not a exaggerated difference that you may expect. There is one other component to this that I wanted to talk about as well was this actually has, if I'm remembering the word correctly, a cumulatory effect. So taking nitric oxide supplements once doesn't quite give you the full effect of it. It has to build up in your system or accumulate in your system. So it benefits you to take it repeatedly before your workout. Every single time before your workout, you'll start to see that your blood vessels are staying dilated for longer. And then this does, of course, carry over to the nether regions of your body because blood vessels are everywhere. So other areas that can see a how am I saying this politically correct? Other areas that can see an engorgement of blood can also benefit from a nitric oxide supplement.
I love that.
And as a matter of fact, that is one of the components of a leading erectile dysfunction medicine that is prescribed to people. And oftentimes, I've actually had a conversation with one of my clients that is a nurse, and she actually tries to avoid doling out pills as much as possible. So she talks to people about natural sources like beets. Beets is a great natural source of nitric oxide. So if you have somebody
They sell
experiencing,
supplements like that do help with opening your blood vessels, allowing for better pumps. So that's a more natural way to go about it. If you want to do that, definitely helps. I have clients that do take that as their pre-workout, and they do experience a little bit of a boost. And there's some other vitamins and nutrients that are kind of clutch in that.
absolutely, and it's I don't know, it's definitely worth mentioning. It does make a difference if you have everything else dialed in. Like we said before at the very beginning, if you're not putting in the work, these things aren't really going to do that much for you. This was actually, I took the glucose before my workouts and the nitric oxide as a concept, and beet juice became a part of my routine. Where Jonathan was talking about his routine, that was part of my routine. I'd slam a cup of coffee and then I'd chug some beet juice mixed with a little bit of orange juice to make it a little bit more flavorful. And that did really well for me. I mean, was I getting 10,000 milligrams of nitric oxide? I have no fucking clue how much I was actually getting, but it was a natural source, so I felt pretty good about it. In the same vein, unless you have anything else to add for nitric oxide.
No, it's actually crazy because I was actually talking to my parents and grandparents this is a while back, but it reminds me of the conversation where they actually used to make you drink this. This was common to blend it up, and it was always disgusting. Most of them it's not an enjoyable thing to drink. I prefer eating them personally, like in a salad. But it was very common for them to blend it up and drink it before to start their day. And it's very common in our Latin American countries to blend fruits, vegetables, and kind of make juices, natural juices for your meals. And they said that this was the least favorite one, but there was a lot of health benefits associated with it. And obviously, they weren't thinking like muscle building, but there's definitely a lot of more benefits that go into this. So this is something to keep in mind. If not, there are supplements that do have nitric oxide in that. That's the supplement itself. There's probably just a powder, pill, whatever, that will enhance your workouts. And if you cover your bases with water and carbs, you're gonna have an amazing workout. If you haven't experienced this and you try this, it's gonna be fun.
Yeah, it definitely is. I mean, after a while too, you'll notice, especially if you're lean enough to see veins on your arms already.
Oh yeah.
A good pump, a good nitric oxide pump, well, your arms turn into like road maps. It's really fun to experience.
Yep.
So in a similar vein, there's something else that kind of has this nitric oxide effect to it called L-citrulline, which is an amino acid. Um, L-citrulline is actually processed in your kidneys, I believe. Kidneys, and it breaks down into a couple of components, but the two popular ones and the cool ones are L-arginine and nitric oxide. So that's actually really cool because since it goes through your kidneys and not your liver, it doesn't get filtered out, or what's the word? It, like, your liver doesn't do what your liver does to the nitric oxide. It goes through your kidneys, and then it's kind of like a more enhanced supply of nitric oxide. So after that, I mean, it's pretty much the same function as a nitric oxide supplement. There is also a natural source that I can cite in watermelon, of all places. You can find a lot of citrulline. So that would be a good addition
I actually didn't
to
know that.
pre-workout. Yeah.
Wow, that's news to me.
Yeah. The
Well.
wonders of Googling things.
That's awesome. I do know that you're better off. There's another supplement, I think is Arginine.
Yeah. That's what else comes from citrulline.
So yeah, so with I know you mentioned it. So I think that there's a supplement that's Arginine that they'll sell it separate. But since it has to filter through the liver, there is a breakdown process. You're getting, like, I guess, diminishing returns. I think you're better off taking L-citrulline at a specific dosage, and it actually will help promote, it'll actually filter better. You'll get more of those benefits versus, because there's not so much of a breakdown where you're losing some of these components. So there's a little bit of discrepancy there. There's been back and forth with the literature, but as far as a proven thing, L-citrulline usually does better to take that versus Arginine.
Yeah, it's actually so it's worth mentioning both of these are non-essential amino acids. So even it's, from what I just very quickly saw on the internet, it's very hard to actually not eat arginine. It's in pretty much everything in some capacity, but even if it wasn't, your body can manufacture what it needs on its own using other components. Same thing goes for citrulline. So it's not something that you're necessarily going to die without, but these things will certainly help, even if it's just a tiny little bit.
Yeah, and this is, like I said, cover your basics, play around with it, see the little added muscle building effects, and they're usually pretty inexpensive as a whole. These are, like, also supplements I will mention that they're not that expensive. Some that really are super overpriced and don't deliver, we're not going to mention those. Like, not even worth throwing your money towards it, because what you're actually getting out of it's not even worth. You're better off doing other things that are going to be more beneficial. Beta-Alanine, I want to cover that one, Mike, because I know you. I know that comes in many pre-workouts. This is also the thing that people, that itchy, tingly sensation you'll feel in your body, your face when you take a pre-workout, especially for the first time. I know everyone that's tried it, knows what I'm talking about. They think that it's something bad, but that's beta-alanine. That's the it's not an amino, it's like a beta.
It's a beta amino acid.
Beta amino acid, in the name, but basically it's gonna give you that sensation, and they do actually sell. The problem with this one is that they kind of sometimes skimp you on the dosage when it comes in a proprietary blend with certain companies that sell pre-workouts. They may not give you the dose that actually matters. You want to, if you take the effective dose, I think it's like 5 milligrams. Typically it does pretty well. You can correct me if I'm wrong there, but I think the way when you would buy the supplement and the powder separate, you can actually just separate a teaspoon or so, and I think that's about 5 grams. Calculates out to. That is an effective dose. Does it say anything, Mike, about that?
No, I haven't found it yet. I'm sure that sounds right to me.
I'm pretty sure, like, I could be wrong by a little bit, but I'm pretty sure it's about 5 milligrams as an effective dose. Companies that do sell quality pre-workouts like Legion, they do incorporate things that it's the scientific dose that it says it has effectiveness. If you have anything that's if you look at a label on a pre-workout, little hack is, if you can start from the beginning of the list of all the ingredients, typically as the list continues on, it's in order of what it has the most. So the last couple things on the list is where it has the least. So figure out where those ingredients are. Typically will give you like an idea, and it'll usually say proprietary blend because they just put a lot of fillers in there. stuff that doesn't work, doesn't matter, unnecessary shit, basically. So that's kind of
I
why I would read the label.
I think I remember. I could be completely wrong with this. I think I remember seeing that if something is a proprietary blend, it doesn't have to be disclosed as to what it is. Since
Correct.
it's technically like trademarked material, they don't have to tell you what is in the proprietary blend.
And it just sounds cool, right? Proprietary blend. Like, holy shit. Like, what am I
Oh
getting?
yeah,
It's just basically they can skimp you. And this is why we recommend going with companies that, have third party testing. They are very upfront about their stuff because, sure, I mean, you can trademark it, but then in a lot of cases, they spike these products with different things just to fill it, make it cheaper, more cost efficient for them. That way, their margins of sales is usually better. But
yep.
go ahead and cover the beta-alanine, Mike. I know I kind of cover the basic stuff that I can remember at the top of my head.
Yeah, so beta-alanine. First of all, I remember when this first came out and I read about it in the magazine, I went out immediately and got some. Either way, it's a non-essential amino acid again, so that means your body can make it without taking it from extra sources. But so the beta amino acid part of this is that it's not actually used in protein synthesis the way other amino acids are. This is a component that is part of other processes, and one of those processes is it binds with histidine, however you say it, which then produces carnosine. Now, carnosine has a lactic acid reducing effect in your muscles. So lactic acid is one of those things that comes up and is part of the muscle burn. And there's a nice little breakdown of the whole function of this as we go along. But so normally, when you're working out, you break down glycogen, or what's known as glycolysis, which is the breakdown of glucose. And then your body produces lactate as you're exercising, and then that gets broken down into lactic acid, or maybe I said that backwards. After which it produces hydrogen ions. The hydrogen ions reduce the pH level of your muscles, and then fatigue sets in because acidity blocks the glucose breakdown and reduces the muscle contractions. So where does carnosine come into play? Carnosine serves as a buffer against the lactic acid. So it basically stops the fatigue process before it gets too far along. So it lowers the amount of lactic acid that's in your muscle, thereby allowing you to contract your muscle for a longer period of time. So you can kind of think of this as like almost an endurance supplement in a certain type of way. If you're looking at on like a per contraction basis, you can probably squeeze out a few more reps from something like this. That's pretty much the breakdown of it.
I like that because like it's literally just giving you the ability to, the effectiveness is not the component itself. It just opens the opportunity for you to dig a little deeper, have like, you can go that extra rep, those extra reps that, once you hit a certain level, this is not super essential if you're just starting out and you haven't even been 6 months to a year of consistency in the gym. You don't need to stress about this. This is someone that's already put in the work. You're kind of tapping into those upper limits of your genetic capacity. These things can help you kind of tap into that next level. So basically it just allows you to give you that extra boost, essentially. Try a little harder. This is why people feel like they need pre-workout, because the caffeine combined in there, the typically has L-Citrulline, good ones have it, Beta-Alanine, nitric oxide components. Basically, like those things will allow you to push even further. From a placebo effect, I do want to say it's placebo as well, for sure. Because you could tell someone that, oh yeah, this has like this thing in it, and people will try harder because they took the product and it doesn't have anything. But it does have some evidence backing these claims up, and it's been proven. It's, like I said, it's an inexpensive supplement to buy by itself, which is what I love. They're not marked up. If you buy these individual ingredients and you make a little cocktail before you work out, that's a way to make a very effective pre-workout. Without spending like $60 or however they cost now. But
Yeah.
it's just that was what I was doing for a while too.
I want to shout out Legion on this one, because Legion actually has a pre-workout that I've been taking.
It's pretty good.
And it's because of the ingredients. They have a moderate amount of caffeine, which I don't need any more caffeine in my day. I want to say it's like 125 grams per scoop, which I just take one scoop of this. It's got L-Citrulline, it's got beta-alanine. It's like what I would consider to be as near perfect of a pre-workout, because it's got all of these components that are just going to give me a little bit extra out of what I would normally be getting anyways. I mean, I'm a caffeine addict, so I'm going to get caffeine before a workout. Fun fact for you, actually, caffeine is a vasorestrictor. So we learned about nitric oxide being a vasodilator. Caffeine actually restricts the flow of blood by contracting your blood vessels. So if you take a fuck ton of caffeine before a workout, it may actually be hurting you, which I learned a little later in life. But that's why I like Legion, though, because they have all of these little components in there that are all leading up to being, an effective pre-workout supplement that's not over the top. I'm not jittery. I'm not seeing sounds or anything like that. And it's got a pretty good flavor too. So
they also do a good job. They have one that's a non-stimulant one, so that there's no caffeine in the non-stimulant one. They just have the other components that are essential for training. I mean, if you want to train late and you don't want to bump up your caffeine source past a certain time, which is smart in my opinion, but they have an option for, and most companies do too. We just personally use them, and we're not paid by them or anything to promote their products, but they're good. And hopefully, who knows what the opportunities in the future may open up, and we may be able to work with a company like that is pretty reputable, and we can get behind and say, hey, this is some good stuff. Funny story about the pre-workouts that make you see sound. I mean, back in the day when I was broing it out, I did take some, I guess, like over the counter stuff that wasn't being sold, because this is the problem with a lot of supplement companies that are not reputable. They can put stuff in there that will technically get banned later down the road. They find something once they test it. It's like, oh shit, like they had issues with pre-workouts back in the day. They come off the shelves, had to recreate their formula because they were finding stuff that had basically like amphetamines, what's the proper term for it?
Amphetamines.
Amphetamines.
Yeah.
And this one in particular, I feel like it had something for sure, because it was like a picture of a demon on it, and it was like a little sample pack. It wasn't even like a full thing. And I was always down to try whatever. I tried some stupid stuff that I probably did more harm to my body than good. It was just like, it literally looked super sketchy. I looked at it. It looked like it was just a picture of a demon in hell. And it was called Black Anus, and it was like anus, but they pronounced it anus, which it's black anus. Basically, look, it just, the whole name, it just gives me bad vibes, right? But I'm 20, 21, 22 at this point, maybe, or maybe younger, I don't know. And I was like, sure, whatever, I'm indestructible, right? So I took this before I worked out. Had the most intense session of my life. I was like tunnel vision in the gym. I was squatting forever. But I was usually always training at night. So when I got home and I finally go to bed, it's almost like I felt myself coming down from something. It was like my heart was like pounding. I was like getting cold sweats. And I literally thought this was my time. Like, this is how I'm going out. But I had the most sick workout of my life. So I think it was all worth it at that point. So, yeah. I felt like I could train forever. But yeah, just really sketchy stuff. Stick to some trusted companies.
Yeah. So I think the supplement that was big on the amphetamines was Stacker. Does that sound? I think that's what it was. Either way, in like the early 2000s, there was this thing, because pre-workouts were like super ridiculous back then. And yeah, they were putting fucking amphetamine in these pre-workouts. Of course, you'd have a great fucking workout. Amphetamine, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of methamphetamine. It's like one branch of a molecule away from being methamphetamine if it's got amphetamine in it. Also, what's the drug for ADD or ADHD? I don't remember. Fuck. That's really close to methamphetamine as well.
Isn't it Adderall?
Adderall, yes. That's really close to methamphetamine from a chemical structure point of view. But I digress. I feel like we can just close the phones and not have to look up reference things to make sure our notes are accurate, because we're going to talk about creatine next, right?
Absolutely. So we have the final supplement that we all stand by. This is a supplement that has been tested for a very long time. Probably has the most literature on. People have studied it for for decades now. It was very misunderstood, but now like the science is pretty evident that it has not only muscle building benefits that can help enhance your current workout if you're not currently taking it, but it also has cognitive functions as well that it will benefit. It helps with overall health. It is something that is technically non-essential if you're eating a diet that's well balanced with animal proteins and stuff like that. But if you are a vegan, for example, you can't get creatine from most plant-based foods. So you would do very well. They've shown the studies for vegans to supplement with creatine. It does help. It does show some positive impacts. But as far as a muscle building thing, this is one of the staple things that I think most men and women can take. There are some exceptions where it doesn't sit well, but it's not that common. But you'll know, like you'll get stomach aches. It'll probably mess up your stool. You won't feel good. Probably is a very evident sign. But for the most part, most people do well with creatine. Now, serving size, recommend 5 grams is enough. They do sometimes sell it with loading phases, which you can technically do, but you don't need to. And the common question I know is going to come up: do I need to cycle off of it? Typically, no. For the most part, you can stay pretty consistent where you're cutting or bulking or maintaining. Adding 5 grams a day doesn't matter what time. Sure, studies will show that maybe it will be a slightly better post workout. But for the most part, if you do better just taking it the first thing in the morning, because that's when you remember to be consistent with it, that's all that matters. Bottom line, when it comes to like roughly what it does. But I'll let Mike kind of add a little bit of that scientific twist. We obviously call him Dr. Mike for a reason for those that have been following us. So Mike, give us the.
Yeah, well, I would just say, creatine is basically giving you more fuel for your muscles to contract. Your muscles use ATP and glucose to move. So if you're squeezing your bicep, ATP and glucose are doing that. So ATP is what you're getting from creatine through whatever chemical functions in your body. It attaches to a water molecule. This is a key point, which I'm going to go on a rant about for a very brief moment a little bit later, but it attaches to a water molecule, goes into the muscle. This gives your muscle more fuel for contraction, but also since it's attached to a water molecule, people do tend to get a little bit of weight gain in water retention out of this in the muscles. So if if you're going on a cruise and you want to look fucking great, then yeah, load up on that creatine before. You'll get all pumped up with water. Your muscles will look really full. You'll look much bigger than you naturally are because you're swelled up with water.
I want to just interject. I want to interject real quick. It's just like I always remember growing up, creatine was viewed as almost like a steroid. It was like because you would notice, and especially young men, like a noticeable increase in size, especially at that age. But it was always like, nah, I don't want to do creatine. I want to be natural. Yeah. Oh, was always so. But go ahead, Mike, on your point.
Yeah, so actually that's worth mentioning. Though I remember the first time I took creatine, I grew up in the early 2000s with that mindset of like creatine's the fucking devil. I'm not taking that shit. It's gonna ruin my liver. And then you were like, no, it's not so bad, and you kind of convinced me. So I tried it, and I remember the first workout of taking creatine, I felt like the Incredible Hulk because my body just had all this extra energy, and I just went fucking ham. And I was taking it the way that you instructed me to, and I didn't see a massive difference in my weight. I maybe put on a couple of pounds, and I know it's from water weight, and that's fine. But I looked a little bit more full. Yeah. I didn't put on this ridiculous amount of size super quick or anything like that. And honestly, like whenever I've taken creatine, the most I'll take is maybe 2 scoops in a day. Like if I forgot my dose yesterday and I just feel like being extra, I'll take some in the morning and then I'll take some after my workout. But even then, I know that's not really like super helpful. I'll probably be fine because ATP has a pretty long shelf life in your muscle. So quick rant, if you ever see a creatine product being marketed to you as something that doesn't make you gain water weight, or a lean or a diet creatine or a super creatine drives me fucking crazy. it's complete bullshit. You're getting sold on a buzzword. Creatine is creatine. Yes, there's different functions, or not different functions. There's different ways in which they make it. There's micronized and hydrolyzed and monohydrate and just different variants of the same thing. And it all has to do with how quickly it absorbs, whether or not it comes with a water molecule already. And it's kind of nitpicky for you to really get too bent out of shape over one or the other. I stick to monohydrate because I take it after my workouts. I don't care how fast it gets into my bloodstream. And even if I did need it before a workout, I would take it like an hour or two before and know that it'll be sitting there the next day if I don't even make it to the gym. So
yeah, like those things, like literally when it excuse me, when it comes to like timing and like all those little things, it's almost like the whole nutrient timing myth with like you got to have it at this exact time to, because if not, you wasted your workout. Like it doesn't work like that. The other ones, they just find ways to be able to extract and make more money and sell it on a higher value, but it doesn't do that much. That you're better off sticking with creatine monohydrate. Usually comes in powder form, relatively cheap. I think a big tub can cost like $20, $30, and that'll last you a decent amount of time if you just do 5 grams a day. I have like things that last me for a while.
Dude, it's actually weird when I run out of creatine because it lasts so long. I'm like, what the fuck?
It's like, wow, I gotta buy this again.
Has it been a year already?
Yeah, so it's a great product, and it's like it actually has some benefits outside of just muscle building. But when it comes to this context, it can make a big difference with your strength, your recovery, the amount of effort. Now, like you said, Mike says a couple pounds is normal. It's not going to be like you're gaining 15 pounds on creatine. It's maybe a couple pounds of water that you're start to hold, but you're not going to notice it because people are like, oh, I just don't want to bloat up and get bloated. That bloating, like the bad kind, is usually because your diet is lacking somewhere. It's not the fucking creatine. The creatine actually will hold a water in the muscles where you actually want it to be. It's not going to be that puffy skin. It's nothing like that. So you have to know the difference. Now, if you're having a crap diet, you can't blame it on creatine while you're gaining weight at a rapid rate. That's typically because you're eating probably too much. So, but yeah, to sum that up, yeah, creatine is one of those supplements that I always stand by 110%. Most of our clients can take it with very little to no negative effects. But if you're the exception, you're that special, then yeah, we would recommend maybe not taking it. But I think that covers like the main points, right? Anything else that we need to add, Mike?
No.
Well, we actually got a lot said not having Gabe on, huh?
Wow. Shots fired.
Nah, I'm kidding. We miss Gabe, and hopefully he'll be back for the next episode. He just has a lot on his plate right now, but he's there saving kids, building houses, feeding the poor, making us feel like, that we're not doing enough, apparently. No. Listeners, if you guys like this type of content, actually, are you going to do your part, Mike?
Yeah, I was going to do a dad joke.
All right. Go for it. Yeah. Sorry.
Okay. Do you know where pirates get their hooks?
I do not.
They get them from secondhand stores.
Wow.
Yeah. Now you know.
You got a riddle for us today?
I do not have a riddle. I just wanted to do a dad joke. I'm going to reassess my riddle game and come back stronger because Gabe's just been like completely shutting me down. So
he's been on point.
If it wasn't for the fact that he was so kind and, the kind of person that would save children, I probably wouldn't like him very much for shutting down my riddles so quickly, but it's fine.
I mean, Gabe, when you get to that level of dad, like you just evolve these like extra. A bit, not all heroes wear capes. I'll just leave it like that.
It's like a Peter tingle.
I'll end it on that note. And listeners, with that being said, if you guys liked this episode, like this content, want to support the podcast, make sure to go ahead and subscribe. We drop about 3 episodes a week, so you don't miss any of them. If you're on YouTube, I know you want to subscribe. Give this video a thumbs up. It just does well on the algorithm. And also, but should be a little bell notification that will also notify you when we drop it, kind of on that same day. It's going to be great, man. A lot of good stuff to come. And as well, we appreciate any feedback, good and bad. Let us know what you'd like to see, what less you'd like to hear or talk about. We always do our best to deliver to you guys the most up-to-date, relevant fitness content. You can check us out on the Instagram pages at The Next Level Show. My personal page is at John Alva Fitness. Gabe is at Prime and Glory. And Mike, he's at Mike Nillis, PNILLIS.